Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here, and on this episode of Desert Lore, I am going to be talking about tea doors. Sounds boring, it's actually fascinating, mysterious, and kind of crazy. So, in the American Southwest, well actually, what is the Southwest? Okay, we have modern day borders. The peoples of the past had different borders and different agreements, and different people were friends, different people were enemies. Say, the border of the United States and Mexico did not exist. So today when archaeologists or you're a traveler, you like to go camping and you're like, I'm going to go to the Southwest. Well, the Southwest of what? Well, the Southwest of the United States. So people, when they say the Southwest, are normally talking about Arizona, New Mexico, southern Utah, southern Colorado, and that's the Southwest. Well, those same peoples were in Northwest Mexico. So in archaeology, we call this region the Southwest Northwest region, which is like, what are you talking the Southwest Northwest? It's that region, and people were traveling back and forth, people were trading, people were sharing ideas, and I will get into that more in a minute. In these areas, both in northwestern Mexico and southwestern United States, there's beautiful ruins all over the place. There's different peoples, and sometimes we try to lump it all together. People used to say these were the ancient Anasazi people. Well, some tribes of today say, Anasazi means ancient ancestors. It's a Dene or a Navajo word. And some people say, well, no, our people say that actually means ancient enemies, and give stories of people who came from the south and caused a bunch of problems, and you have different ideas on that front. So nowadays, a lot of times people just call these people ancestral Puebloans. It's very general, very nebulous. So within this, there were different traditions, different ideas that developed, different leaderships. There's not just one people. So because we don't have a written language, we can't know everything about these people. So when I use the term ancestral Puebloans, that's just a catch-all for the people of the Southwest Northwest region. And again, they had their own rise and fall and up and down, and profusions of art styles that would come and go, and trade agreements with people to the south and people to the west. It's amazing history, and much of it is lost to time. But among all these ruins, there's doorways. Your typical doorways are pretty narrow. They're just narrow doorways to walk through. And in the wintertime, it's cold, so a narrow doorway is a good thing, but it's less heat out. But there were some tea doors. Now, the earliest tea doors that we see seem to come from Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. Now, people have been in Chaco for thousands and thousands of years, but there hit a time where all of a sudden there seemed to be an explosion in the population and in the building of things. It used to be there were pueblos there, and it's like 8 rooms in a kiva, or 12 rooms in a kiva, and that's it, that's your pueblo. But all of a sudden, on the north side of the river of the canyon, great house communities just sprang up and added and added and added. These were communities with hundreds of rooms, like 700 rooms. And some of these structures were, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories tall, levels tall. Incredible masonry with foundations that were dug down like 15, 20 feet. And these foundations are still adobe. They're still just, adobe and stone, but they made foundations to bear the weight so that these things would be solid. These people had amazing building skills, and they developed new ideas. Now, we know that the people of Chaco were trading back and forth with Mexico. We know this directly. We know that they were bringing up cacao beans, and that there were very special cacao mugs. We have tested the residue left on DNA testing and found that these special mugs were for making a sacred drink called ish cacao, and also another sacred drink called chocolate. These are 2 different cacao-based drinks made from cacao beans. Cacao only grows in tropical environments, and we have followed the maps, and it seems that it came from Puerto Vallarta. That region of Mexico is where these beans came up from. We have copper bells also shipped up from Mexico. We have shells from the Pacific Ocean, from the Chumash tribe, that were traded, and these shells were incredible. And we have beautiful turquoise and jade shipped in from different regions. And we have live macaws that were brought into Chaco Canyon. We have lots of skeletons of these. And it's interesting to know, I'll be doing a video later just on macaw trade in the Southwest. It'll be an incredible video, but it's taking a lot of time to get all my ducks in a row to have the facts down right. Macaws can talk. Can you imagine having this bright, vibrant bird from the tropics and it's speaking your language? Imagine the emotional impact, the spiritual impact of having a bird that can talk. I mean, it would be like something out of a fairy world. And you also had people themselves. People were coming in with religious ideas and bodily ideas. So one of the ways we know is in Mexico, proper Mexico at this time, it was a social identity to do dental modification of like cutting your teeth or chiseling your teeth so they were sharp, so they were blades. This is popular in Mexico. We have some of the remains that have been found in Chaco Canyon have these teeth, and the DNA shows that yes, they are from Mexico. We also have instances of more dental modification where holes were drilled in the teeth and bits of jade or bits of turquoise were put in, which again, that seems painful, but again, it's a sign of wealth and it's a sign of status and showing your affiliation. What people are you? So there was a strong influence, bare minimum, maybe much more, I won't go into that here, from Mexico on Chaco Canyon. And the interesting thing about that is we start to see T doors throughout these Chacoan great houses. Now, these T doors, in the old days, people just kind of would say, oh, this is just something to bring firewood in. You got a door and you're just carrying firewood in, so you got to have more of an opening at the top. And I always thought that's ridiculous, and now the general consensus is that that's ridiculous, and I will prove that in a bit. So we see at Chaco Canyon the kind of the birth of the T doors. But remember, you have influence coming up from Mexico. You have people coming directly up and bringing live macaws all the way down from Mexico. Well, there's these T doors, right? It is interesting to note that from the region of Mexico that those parrots come from, there's also T doors. For example, at Palenque, the Palace of Palenque, deep in tropical Mexico, there are a profusion of T doors and T windows that show that same T aperture. So there's a connection. Now, peoples can come up with ideas on their own. But again, if you have actual people coming up, and if you have like a higher class, that they're coming in, they're like, hey, we have these ideas, or we have this wealth, or we're going to dominate some sort of control or some sort of social pressure, it's a possibility, then you might also be bringing with you some sort of symbolic ideas. So if you're from a region that values that T aperture as a shape, as a symbol of affiliation or religious power or something, then you can put it on your door because that's a bold statement. It's kind of like in the Hebrew culture where you have like a mezuzah by the door, with the Ten Commandments wrapped up by the front door, or you might have a cross on your front door if you're Christian, something to say this is a Christian household, right? It's a way to kind of show that affiliation. Or some people have flagpoles, right? You're like, oh, this is America. I'm going to have an American flag in my front yard to show I'm American. It's like, well, we kind of know you are, but it's a way it could be a way to do that. So we know there's this influence coming up from Mexico, and we know that some of the ideas are spreading. We know some of the people coming up and sharing ideas, sharing these amazing trade goods, and some of these unique ideas. Now, mugs. People use mugs throughout time, right? Mug is a very simple shape. You got a handle, right? Well, we start to see in Chaco Canyon something very rare. We start to see that the handle of the mug will have a T-shape cut out. Now, archaeologists normally call this a keyhole mug, but it's not a keyhole, it's the T aperture. And we see these all throughout the West, but they're rare. Now, you think about it, if you go to all the work to make a clay mug, just carving a little T out of the handle, that's not much work. You've already put in the work. You've already sculpted it, made it, fired it, painted it. What is it to carve out a little T? It's nothing. So if this is an important symbol, why doesn't everybody do it if it's so easy to do? Normally something special is hard. It's difficult. If you have a jade necklace, well, jade is hard to get, it's hard to carve, and so it's really special to show. But carving that T, that's easy. So why didn't we see it more commonly in Chaco? It seems, again, throughout all the the Northwest, Southwest region, Southwest United States, Northwest Mexico, we see a huge profusion of these these mugs that are normal and only a slightly few that have the keyhole. So it seems that the keyhole aperture is rare or is special in some way. Now from Chaco, the T-door aperture spreads out. And Mesa Verde has a lot of them that you can see on display. And a lot of pueblos do, a lot of pueblos don't. Even the small ones. You might have a small pueblo with just 1 room or 2 rooms, and it's got a big old doorway with the T-door aperture. Just how it goes. Well, we know that about 100 years after that, the kind of the high mark of Chaco, we see that at Paquime, Mexico, which is about 60 miles into the border of Mexico, which again, the same region, people going back and forth. We have this amazing community that has a trade hub. They're trading from everywhere, and they have pens with hundreds of live turkeys, hundreds of live parrots. They have huge bins, 20 feet tall, filled with shells, filled with jade, filled with turquoise, and cacao beans going up and forth. There's this huge trade hub. And at Paquime, you have just about every doorway is the T aperture. It's like whatever the symbol meant, it exploded. It's like, yes, this is who we are. Now, why this is so important is because people just still dismiss the T-door as a door. But at Paquime, we have proof of otherwise. Because at Paquime, archaeologists found 2 altars. Now these altars are made, I think one's made out of turquoise, or not, yeah, one's made out of quartzite, and I think one's made out of jadeite. Very hard, tough rocks. And these are people who do not have stone chisels. So you're chiseling with other rocks or like a piece of flint. And so to carve these were altars. And these altars, they're about the size of like a box fan. And these altars had offerings on top of them. They were freestanding in rooms, in sacred rooms. So the door itself, the aperture, the T shape was sacred. Maybe the shape itself was worshipped. Maybe it was a door and it's like, hey, this is a symbol, maybe to the spirit world or from the spirit world. Maybe making an offering. Maybe you commend a spirit of a passed away person there, or maybe you're trying to invite spirits up from that doorway. We don't know. Maybe it was viewed in a sense as like, since it's a Mesoamerican idea first, maybe it's like, hey, trying to connect with the people down there. We do not know, but we know that T symbol was incredibly profound. And the fact that there was 2 altar stones that were just the T aperture, freestanding, blows away the idea that, oh, it's just a door. It's just to represent, so you can bring firewood in a doorway easily. That's untrue, and it's demonstrably so. So whatever the symbol is, very profound, very important, and it seems to be maybe something very strongly connected with Mesoamerica, with, Mayan, Aztec type cultures and wealth. It seems to be maybe religious, and it seems to be maybe something that not everybody had access to. Not everybody was allowed to perhaps have a T door or a T-shaped mug or a T altar stone. It seems like whatever it was a very powerful declaration. And so when you see them, it's synonymous with the Southwest. The T-doors are synonymous with Southwestern Puebloan ruins. But just understand this idea evolved, and it is connected all the way down to Paquime in Mexico, to the great Paquime ruins and the palace there. And whatever it is something special, and it is something unique. So wanted to share this with you. I hope if you are going through and ever seeing these ruins, whether in Mexico or in the United States, if you ever see a T-door, or if you ever see a keyhole mug, take a moment to look at it and think and ponder and take your own takeaway of what you think it meant, and know that whoever crafted that, it meant something very powerful to them. So I would like to do a much more in-depth video on this subject, but I wanted to do this for now. I hope you enjoyed learning it. I would love to hear your comments on your thoughts or what you have heard. And always remember, life is a gift. So never stop learning and never stop exploring. We'll see you next time.